I'm good.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
we're live. All right, this is Michael Yan live in Chiang Mai, Thailand. It's 23:16 hours here in Thailand, so it's 18 April of 2020, and I'm on day 10 of fasting with zero food. You're welcome to join me. Now, beside me, well, actually in Hong Kong, is my friend, British journalist Tommy Walker. And he's been out there in the fighting for a long time, and we've been out into a lot of those together. And so I can assure you that Tommy's the real deal. He's out there all the time getting hit with rubber bullets and all that crazy stuff from the Hong Kong cops, which the Hong Kongers, as you know, will call them China Nazis. But anyway, let's don't hear from me. Let's hear from Tommy. Tommy, how's it going in Hong Kong?
Yeah, not bad actually, compared to obviously the levels of violence and things we saw last year together.
Actually, let's hold on just a second. Let's make sure people are getting on here and the audio is going out good, so that we have actually a chance. And I'm going to reintroduce you because nobody's commented yet. So make sure it's feeding out. And because Facebook and YouTube, they're quite slow. I see some. Hey, Carrie Klein, hello up there, because it's we're getting a jerky connection.
Okay.
And it's jerky on my side and on yours.
Um,
Hey, Penny
seems
in
o-
Mississippi and SB. All right, thanks for sharing it, SB. All right, people are coming on now. James, Jonathan in Washington State, and Richard, you was good. All right, thanks. Anybody up there in UK? That's the United Kingdom for people that get that confused. Lima Charlie, great, Joseph. All right, all right, I'm going to reintroduce my friend. Oh, there's Steve Goff, my friend in Romania. Good to see you, Steve. Great buddy, old SF buddy. All right, hey in Orlando, let's get rolling. All right, this is my friend Tommy Walker. He's a British journalist. You can see it if you were to web search his name, you'll see all kinds of art. He's a great writer. Uh, First time I saw some of his writing, I said, "Wow, Tommy, I didn't have any idea you could write so well." And he was like, kind of taken aback, almost like insulted or something. Anyway, it's really great writing. You should see. And he's been out there in the fighting for. You'll have to tell me because I don't remember when you first showed up, Tommy. And we met on the streets, I believe. I remember one night you got shot in the shoulder. You had a big old, almost golf ball sized knot on your shoulder. That was November 18th, right? Was that the
yeah,
night? Yeah, that was. There must have been a couple thousand Molotovs that night, and at least that
yeah.
many tear gases. And that was the night of the stampede with about 80 casualties or so. Actually, it was more than one stampede. But anyway,
Mm,
let's hear you talk. My friend Tommy Walker is in Hong Kong right now.
mm.
Take it away,
Yeah,
Tommy.
yeah. Hi, Mike. Yeah, well, we can just quickly touch on that point. 18th of November. That was definitely the most severe fighting that I saw in Hong Kong still to date. I think that was the fallout of the Polytechnic University siege. And like you said, it was the night of the stampede, tons of Molotovs and tear gas. But since then, right now, it's nowhere near that at the moment because of obvious things. Obviously, one being the coronavirus. So we're a little bit further away from what we were last year in terms of that level of violence and protests. But yeah, it's definitely obviously something that is going to happen again. I think in the next couple of months, going by what's happened recently in Hong Kong. Actually, just today, 14 of 14 sort of notable pro-democracy, pro-democratic people in Hong Kong were arrested today. I can give you all the names. Basically, what's happening is the Hong Kong government and Beijing are taking the time when obviously there's less people on the streets. The coronavirus is keeping people more in. They're using this time to sort of arrest people with charges to do with the demonstrations last year. So that's happened today, and from speaking to people within my circles in Hong Kong, it's starting to heat up a little bit politically, even though we're in the middle of a global pandemic. So that's where we're at today. And I'm still here, waiting to see what happens. So,
yeah, I mean, how do you sense that the mood of the insurgency now? Is it abated, or is it increasing, or what? It's hard to increase much more because it's quite intense, even when they kick me out.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no demonstration. When we were covering it last year, up until the end of November, start of December, there was obviously large demonstrations weekly. There's obviously that, there's still obviously rumbling on, but it's a lot of that is continuing online. So there's a lot of sort of demonstrations and cyber sort of line, and people are gathering information and sort of protesting against things online. So there's no actual physical demonstrations as regular as there were last year. However, look, it's in 6 weeks. It's going to be June, and that's going to be 1 year since the anniversary. So again, that has potential for there to be a large scale demonstration. And with the recent arrests, and basically Beijing wanting to pass Article 23 in Hong Kong, there's obviously people are getting more upset.
Can you explain Article 23? It sounds like you just threw something out there, but that's actually very crucial, and people need to understand what that's all about.
Yeah. So basically, Article 23, I mean, I'll just go for, is Hong Kong Basic Law. And what Beijing want to do is they want to, hang on 1 second. They basically want to introduce a national security legislation under Article 23 of the Basic Law as soon as possible. So they want to prevent any, violence, any pro-independent, protests or any foreign interference. So that's what Beijing want to do. They want to introduce national security legislation. Sorry, it's late and getting tongue twisted. Under Article 23. Okay, so that means anything that any anti-government protests or any medical protests that were going to happen, they can basically, label them or make them against the law, so to speak. And that's what's upset people in the recent days. It's basically just an example of Beijing wanting to meddle with what's happening in Hong Kong, and basically the laws of Hong Kong. Beijing are just trying to enforce their way into Hong Kong. So, yeah, that's basically what it is. For people who don't know, Hong Kong and China obviously is one country, two systems. That's the principle of what it's supposed to be. Okay, but of course Beijing want to sort of meddle and make sure that no pro-independence forces are sort of meddling with that, with the rule of law, is how they say it. So they want to basically add in the security legislation to prevent these things from happening in the future.
Well, I mean, obviously they're trying to go full Tibet on Hong Kong is what they're trying to do. It's very jerky here, Tommy. I'm not sure if the connection's good enough to keep going, but are you there? Let's see if what is going on here? It's just maybe there's just too many people on the internet these days because of the what's going on. So many people are at home.
I'm not sure I understand.
And oh, good Lord! And so many computer problems here, Tommy.
It's a bit slow. It's a bit slow on the video, but the sound I can.
We can just go by sound then. Let's try to take a few questions here. Actually, if anybody has any questions for Tommy, he's been on the streets for I don't even know how long. Like Nicola Higgins asked, was it you and Tommy the only ones on the streets hours later? You mean if you're talking November 18th after the the stampede. Eric was out there as Carl was out there, and and I don't even know if you're on there still, Tommy. Are you still on?
You just
Yeah, we're really having a serious connection problem here. Let's see if the readers want to listeners want to continue with this level of transmission, or if we should try it another time.
about the virus process. I mean, look, the is with the process reason, but basically the things is heating up a little bit in and past the Article 3, and also a lot of pro-democracy who have been politicians have actually got arrested today. I have to give you the whole scope of it. Hang on, because their names are too hard for me to pronounce.
Yeah, there's quite a few people they arrested today.
Yeah, let me just get that.
Okay, let me summarize this for people that aren't paying attention to Hong Kong. And a lot of people probably aren't paying attention now because most of our countries are being smashed by this virus that came from China. You know, China has many viruses to spread out. One of them is just totalitarianism, and the other is biological, the CCP virus. But basically what they've done today is arrest what amounts to people in Parliament. Or people, if you're talking U.S. terms, it would be like arresting senators and congresspeople, right? I mean, that's what they've done. I mean, they're going basically full Tibet on Hong Kong. If you don't know about Tibet, maybe you're young and don't know what I'm talking about, basically cracked down on Tibet and invaded and took it, and just basically stole Tibet, just like they've been putting Uyghurs in concentration camps and so many other terrible things. And they've been trying to take Hong Kong, and they're going to try to take it by force. But anyway, go ahead. I'm interrupting, Tommy.
No, yeah. I mean, look. Sorry. I mean, maybe terminology is best for you to explain it like that. But yeah, there's been today. It's quite an essential day. It's a good reason you've called today. 15 Hong Kong pro-democracy figures have been arrested by police. Okay, that's what's happened today because of demonstrations that me went to last year, Mike. They've been arrested today for that. Okay, came on top of days of Beijing wanting to pass Article 23 and interfere with Hong Kong's abilities to do this sort of thing, these demonstrations. So it sounds a bit political for people who might not know too much about it, but it's definitely an increase, on what's happened recently. Everyone's attention's been on the coronavirus, and we can talk about that in a sec. But the politically things are heating up from that perspective. In the forthcoming 6 to 8 weeks to 3 months, there's going to be, I'd imagine, demonstrations again. Maybe not as regular as they were last year, but there will be some on the back of this. And obviously, some one will be definitely like the 1 year anniversary from last year. So that's what's happening at the moment. It's not as chaotic as what it was last year. Things are happening. Now, you do get the odd random protest, Yuen Long and Mong Kok, which just sporadically happen. And these are normally to do with, anniversaries of specific events that have happened during the height of the protests. So, for example, the Yuen Long attacks on the 21st of July, when triads attacked Hong Kong protesters, and the police didn't do anything about it. Okay, Hong Kongers have took this, and that was on the 21st of July. There's been anniversaries every month to remember that. Okay, and that still goes on. So that anniversary is the 21st of each month. In 2 days, it'll be what's that? So it's July. So it'll be 8 months since that happened. There'll be a demonstration. Okay, what will happen is that people will go out and basically have a small demonstration. Tons of police will come. This is the example of the demonstrations now. Okay, so there's things like that are happening, but in its regularity, it's not as much as it was last year.
Right, but yet the police are still out there, even arresting government members who dissent. To make it, my audio apparently was bad before when I explained it before, but the Hong Kong police just arrested some government members in Hong Kong. Was it 17, Tommy? I'm not sure of the numbers. 15. And this would be roughly the equivalent of arresting American representatives or senators, that sort of thing. I mean, they represented, they just basically arrested members of the government who were not in agreement with the communist way. So, I mean, they're not committing any crimes. They're not committing any acts of violence. There's no bombs going off, no shootings or stabbings or anything like that. It's just literally, their crimes literally are 1984 thought crimes. I mean, it's thought, if you haven't read the book 1984, then that you would get the reference. But it's just basically thought crimes, and that's why they're arresting them. And so what do you think comes next, Tommy?
I mean, this has definitely, obviously, annoyed a lot of Hong Kongers. It's a difficult thing to predict what's going to happen next, because if this thing happened last year, there would be a demonstration tomorrow. I mean, that's what would happen. It would just be like a lot of people would turn out. With the virus, it's keeping people in. I mean, Hong Kong isn't on lockdown, but it's obviously a lot of people are working from home. There's a lot less people in the streets. So to see the actual immediate fallout from this, I'm unsure. There's no demonstration that's been announced immediately. Okay, but we are edging closer to that stage where it's nearly 1 year since the Hong Kong protests began in June. Okay, the anniversary. So again, it might go into that. It all really depends on the virus situation, because again, social distancing. We're trying to do that around the world. You have tens of thousands of Hong Kongers coming to demonstrate. Social distancing goes out the window. So it's difficult to predict what's going to happen on the fallout from this. Obviously, we can keep tracking it in the news, but in terms of demonstrations on the street, I'm unsure personally.
Listen, also some context is needed. I thought that two of the main places that were going to get hit first, one was Thailand, where I'm at now, because of so many Chinese that come from Wuhan to an airport not far from me in Chiang Mai, and also to Bangkok, but also Hong Kong, because for people that aren't aware where Hong Kong is, it's basically attached to China, and so and Hong Kong has Mongkok area of Hong Kong has the highest population density in the world, right? And so population density is one of the main factors in the R0 of these viruses, right? In other words, the transmissibility of this virus is directly related to population density. And Mongkok area, where many of these protests take place, is literally the most highest population density in the world. And the Hong Kongers are very well educated, and they very well know this. And so if they get out into a huge crowd of people, think about how this plays out. The virus spreads around, and then they go home. And if you look at Hong Kong apartments, typically they're very small. So instantly their whole family is going to be infected. You imagine how this plays out? Like a real explosion, like New York would be nothing. You know what I mean? It would be just totally explosive. So, I mean, I've been telling Hong Kongers for months, stop protesting, preserve energy, preserve yourself, preserve your family, and bide your time, because otherwise this will be catastrophic, and let the virus do its deeds on China, for starters, because we don't know how this is going to play out. But I think it's a huge mistake to come out and protest, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, you're right, and I agree too. In this times, to come in big numbers, I think would be irresponsible. But I think, like I said, there hasn't been any large demonstrations. There's been some sporadic, some random ones that have just happened. I was last on the street at the end of February. Eric was there, and some other, journalism reporters here. That was on 29th of February. That just happened within about 2 hours, and it just exploded. Nathan Road, Mongkok, very congested area. A lot of people were upset. There was games of cat and mouse, Molotovs, tear gas, things like that. It just happened. That's not a regular thing, and it hasn't been since the end of November. So you're right. I don't think Hong Kongers are doing that. But with the news today of the pro-democracy figures being arrested, and the anniversary of June happening soon, there's potential that's gonna be ignored a little bit, and there might be some demonstrations about to happen. But yeah, as you said, Mike, Hong Kong, 7.5 million people here. It's like a New York, it's like a London. Things are quite, congested in the city. The apartments are very small. It's a place that we both said that should just by how it is, the environment, it should get hit hard with this virus. But at the moment, touch wood, it hasn't. The numbers are very low in comparison. So there's only just over 1,000 confirmed cases at the moment. So I think Hong Kongers have done very well. Everyone's wearing masks. Everyone's washing their hands. A lot more people are working from home, staying inside. Again, the demonstrations haven't happened regularly as they had last year. But yeah, I mean, that's the situation at the moment. So Hong Kongers have done very well to keep the numbers low, considering where we are. You've been here, Mongkok, that place, and everyone's quite tight together. So yeah, at the moment it's going okay, but no one can rest on the laurels. Everyone needs to keep it up and keep fighting against this virus.
Right. And we both did think, or I did for sure, believe that Hong Kong was going to get hit a lot harder, a lot earlier. And we're all trying to guess, like, why did so-and-so country get hit very hard and this other one did not? Like Japan, for instance, also has a high population density and a lot of elderly people and a lot of travelers from China. So Japan is starting to get hit harder now, but why is it, there's so many mysteries out here that we haven't unfurled yet. What is it? I don't know. But Hong Kong, I can take a naked stab and say maybe it's because they're smart enough to wear a mask. And Hong Kongers do remember SARS-1. This is SARS-3, actually. The CCP virus is SARS-3. And the Hong Kongers definitely remember, if you bring up SARS to an American, Americans are like, SARS, what's that, right? But if you bring up SARS to a Hong Konger, they pay attention. They actually, you got their full attention because they're highly educated. They realize it's not the flu. They realize it's like a hurricane and a tsunami and a tornado and Godzilla all at the same time if it's a bad one, right? And so they paid attention when this one started kicking off. They masked up immediately, huge amounts wearing masks, and just Hong Kongers pay a lot closer attention to basic protective gear, just wearing masks, which we still have difficult. There was protests today over in Michigan, I believe it was, and a lot of the protesters, I agree with why they were protesting, but they're out there not wearing masks like idiots. Whereas Hong Kongers, if they go to protest, well, now they've got 10 reasons to wear a mask. One is so they don't show up in the facial recognition, program databases, which practically everybody is now anyway. And another is, tear gas. And then another, of course, is CCP virus. Tommy?
Yeah. Look, yeah, you're right. When the virus, was released or became, spread in January, when it first started to spread, Hong Kongers, for the people who don't know, Hong Kong is a 4-hour train ride to Wuhan across the border. 4 hours. It's not far. All right. So we're quite close to the actual ground zero. So when that happened, of course, everyone in Hong Kong, including myself, and obviously all foreigners, expats who live here, everyone in Hong Kong, we're thinking, well, we're right next door to mainland China. So there's definitely, and the fact that Hong Kong's environment as well, you think, well, we're probably going to get hit really hard first. But what Hong Kongers did, because like you mentioned, the scars of SARS is how I say it, of 2003, they were very quick to take their own precautions, wear masks. Everyone wears masks. Okay, wash hands, social distancing, work from home. Don't go out for your social leisurely time. Okay, really knuckle down and start quickly, and they did that. The Hong Kong government didn't close the borders as what people wanted, especially with the mainland, and that's why there was medical strikes at the start of February. Medical strikes in Hong Kong. A lot of the medical workers were worried that the border with mainland China wasn't closed. It needed to be closed because mainland Chinese were coming in, getting healthcare in Hong Kong, and obviously that has potential to spread the virus. So people wanted the border closed, as well as the airport borders as well. So people have been very focused on keeping Hong Kong safe, and so far so good. People have been doing tremendously well with that.
The funny thing is Hong Kongers don't even need to be told to wear a mask. Americans, Tommy, did you know that our Surgeon General actually told people, I think it may have been February 28th, which was way late into the game. He actually tweeted and told people not to wear a mask. And he said they don't work anyway. That's the U.S. Did you know that?
I didn't know he did it. I didn't know he said it specifically, but they said it specifically. But I know that's been a general mindset in the States and in Europe. I know that because I can tell you an experience I went through. I basically had multiple conversations with people online and back at home in Europe saying, wear masks. We're in Asia now. We are the first hit. Take advice from what's happening now. This was in the end of January, start of February, right? So the Europe and US, it wasn't what it is now, okay? So I was saying, wear masks, get a mask, or if you haven't got a mask, make it, or use something like a scarf, because it has an effect to prevent any spread, even if you haven't got symptoms. Wearing a mask can just do something. It's common sense. And of course, wash hands, social distancing. And I ranted on my Facebook page.
Was that in January?
This was in February. Right. And I ranted one morning because I was annoyed at people's dismissal of my advice. And I was just because I was in Asia. It was like, oh, Tommy's over there in Asia, whatever. We're going to follow this advice, even though we haven't been affected yet. And it's like, okay, listen to the people who it's affecting, right? That's what the people you got to listen to. So I was saying, wear a mask. And then it went, and I made this post and it went out in some European newspaper. And basically about a month later, US media was publishing, oh, actually wearing a mask does have some benefits, and now everyone wants to wear a mask. So like the point you made is that Europe and North and the United States especially, their reaction was a very slow reaction. They had time. They still had time to get to make it better than it is right now. And where you're from, where I'm from, we're getting ravaged, and Europe, other parts of Europe, Spain, Italy, people had time. They had time. And unfortunately, that time wasn't taken advantage of. So this is the thing. Hong Kongers have set the standard, as have Taiwan, as have Vietnam. These are the countries and the special administrative regions that have set an example that wear a mask, take precautions, okay, and you can get over this and you can beat it. But if you don't and you let the virus in, which has happened in Europe and America, we've seen what's happening already. So people, the advice, I believe, if I was in UK or the US, I would have listened to the people it's affecting, the people in Asia. It affected people in Asia first, okay? It came from China, it came from Wuhan, it went over to Hong Kong, here in Hong Kong, to South Korea and Thailand. These were the first countries and cities that it was affecting. So, and what were people doing? Wear masks. That's what people needed to do. So, yeah, I mean, I just hope now your viewers, your listeners, anyone back in the UK or Europe or the US listening, they're actually starting to understand that actually taking these precautions is quite important. And you just need to look at Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Vietnam's response to show that, look at their numbers. And all of them have done very, very well with their precautions. And people just need to listen to that. And it's just a shame that that advice that people with notable jobs in your country were saying, don't wear a mask. It doesn't do anything. I mean, it's just a shame people were saying that because they weren't affected at the time. So all I can say now is too little, too late. We just got to try and it's just damage control now. I think like we talked about.
It's total mitigation now, Tommy. I mean, it's down to controls out of the question. Anybody that's even talking about mitigation at this point, I mean, it's really kind of beyond that. Now it's protecting organs, it's protecting your head in a fight. It's I mean, it's really down to trying to reduce our casualties while not letting our economies get destroyed. So Americans, you're probably not paying attention because you're in the middle of something very serious in Hong Kong, but Americans are chomping at the bit to go back to work because our economy is being devastated. And so there's that threat. There's the virus, and then there's the economy, and then there's China, and there's all these major threats on the board, and they're all interlinked, of course. But we need to get our economy going again, which means assuming risk, not just risk. I mean, the virologists, the epidemiologists, they know that if we just open up and everybody goes to work, then we're going to take boatloads of casualties really quickly. However, if you also listen to them more closely, over the long run, we're going to you're reducing the amount you get per day or per week or per month, but you're still stretching them out and still going to get them, right? And so you're basically, so the area under the curve is roughly the same anyway. You can't count on a vaccination. It's certainly not going to be here in time. All the experts say that. People talking about vaccination or have some ulterior motive, like calm people down or try to get free advertisement for their company, like, hey, we're this company and we're in vaccine trials now, and suddenly they got 200 newspapers writing stories about them. They get free advertisement. So I mean, but we're in it for the long haul at this point. So, and Hong Kongers, it just makes me wonder how long until there is a real explosion of cases in Hong Kong, because once it reaches a certain point, you've lost control. And that's what I'm concerned about. And, because we both have a lot of friends in Hong Kong, and after you've been in Hong Kong even a month, or even a week, you really like the people. They're super likable people. So, if they start getting hit with this, it's going to be painful for a lot of us.
Yeah, the worry's there, definitely. I mean, you're right. I think hopefully it doesn't get to that stage, because Hong Kongers have done so well to this stage. But I agree. We're nowhere near over this. And I think, I read somewhere historically these sort of viruses go in 3 waves. And, again, I don't think people should rest on their laurels and be complacent here. They need to for me, 2020, everyone's 2020, whether you've got work commitments, holiday plans, or, just forget it. Right? 2020 is done, right? We need to get over this.
Tommy, I was saying that in February.
Yeah.
In January, I was saying the CCP, is dead, which it is. It doesn't mean CCP is dead. And there's going to be the life that you had before 2020, the life of 2020 and 21 probably and 22. And then there's going to be some other life after that, which none of us know what it's going to look like. We can guess, but we don't know. But I tell you what, the people who can adjust the fastest are the ones who are going to quickly prosper. Like, get a hold of yourself, figure out how I'm going to make this thing work, because we're going to have to, and so, people are going to have to adjust to a new world, Tommy, including you and me. We already have. We're adjusting now.
Like I said, I think, absolutely. I think it's survival this year. This is the first year. Like I said, for me, I've been speaking to friends who are medical workers in the UK, and they're at the front line. And I'm saying, people are just expecting this it's going to be a quick fix. It doesn't work like that. Like, you might get over the peak, but then you don't know if it's going to come back and and that's the worry. So people just need to survive this year. Forget about anything that you have planned. It's just 1 year at least. Just survive. Get this year out the way, all right, and take precautions as much as possible. And that's what people need to do. Just going back to Hong Kong quickly. Yeah, I mean, again, there is a worry for myself just on complacency. I went out to speak to some Hong Kongers last weekend, and I did some interviews with some, and a lot of them were feeling confident because of the precautions they individually took. But it just takes a couple of people who don't take them precautions for things to get worse. So the main thing is that we come together wherever you are in the world and as a community and just take these precautions. We have to be bold. We have to be strict with ourselves. We've got to do this sort of thing. And if we do that, then obviously there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's not going to be fun, and people thinking it's going to finish quickly. It's going to be a quick fix. Or, once the numbers go down, that's it. It doesn't work like that. Like I said, in Hong Kong, yesterday there was only 4 new cases of the coronavirus. 4, single digits, right? The day before was 1. Okay, so the numbers are very low here. There's only 1,024 cases, I think I'm on, 1,024. But point is that doesn't mean it's over. It just means we're doing good at the moment, right? But there's always that potential, especially in a city like Hong Kong, which is like the New York of Asia, if you like, because of its, it's very compact. So if that gets out of hand, like you said, Mike, if it loses control, then you can't get it back. You can't. And Hong Kong at the moment seems to be in a position where there is some level of control of it at this point, but that could rapidly change. And that, so I just think, we've just all got to really take precautions and really just, like I said, we just got to forget about 2020. We're not going to do anything, we're not going to do anything, exciting or, this year. It's just going to be, let's just try and get through this as much as possible.
You can take up scuba diving.
We'll live underwater. Yeah, we could live underwater for the rest of the year. That would be fun.
No, it's, this is just, everybody faces challenges in their life. Now we're all facing a giant one together, in some ways, though, there's a lot of exciting opportunity as well. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going to get reset, and we can rebuild them better if we do it wisely. Because, we can see, my guess is that a lot, like the U.S. tax base is just getting crushed. And same thing is going to happen so this means a lot of people like me who have been talking about how the U.S. government should downsize. Millions of us have been talking about that for years. Well, here it comes, chainsaw downsizing. And so, this is an opportunity it's going to get downsized. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The U.S. government's getting downsized right now, as are many other governments. So, there's that. There's many ways that it can be rebuilt and done better, but certainly at this point, the world as we know it is going to be different.
Yeah, I'm just looking, I think at some of the comments. You're right, the world's going to be different, and it can be easy to say to do this and do that, but some people do have jobs that they have to go physically to work, and I think for them people, my advice would just be go to work, go home, take as many precautions as possible, because some people literally do have to leave the house. They have to, and you're seeing that in Hong Kong. You've got cardboard collectors on the street. You've got bus drivers. All of these people, they need to be physically on the street. So you're right. I think it's definitely going to be different after this. The world is. But for me, the focus is just let's get on with this now, and let's just try and get through it. We're in the moment, and that's the main thing. I think too many people are looking forward or looking forward to what's happening after. We're a long way to after.
We are. That's a good point, Tommy, because a lot of people don't quite get it. They think we're like, because New York is flattening the curve, that we're actually have reached the summit and we're going to go down the other side. We're still at the bottom of Mount Everest on this thing. We're at base camp, basically, for where we're going. And we're not even close. And that's why I keep telling people, stock up on food. Stock up on water. Make sure you got water security, water purifiers, all the food that you stock up on food, period. I can't say it more clearly. And other things that you need. For instance, making sure that you have the ability to have lights when your electricity goes out, if it does. Now, like, natural disasters are going to continue to happen. We just had some more tornadoes in the United States. And hurricane season is going to come like normal. Fire season is going to come like normal. Earthquakes are going to do what earthquakes do like normal. All these other things are going to happen. Like, we could have a huge terrorist attack tomorrow. So, I mean, all these things are going to continue to happen with the backdrop of a massive pandemic. And you're not going to have that normal, for instance, if Florida gets hit with a Category 5 hurricane in the next few months, usually there's a huge number of people that rush down to help. What are they going to do this time? How long will it be until they get electricity going again? You got to think about these things. You need your food. You need your water. You need to have as much security as you can have on just simple things like, where are you going to go to the toilet? I mean, for people that live out in the boonies, well, outside, that's no big problem. But what happens if you live in an apartment complex in Hong Kong? Where are you going to go to the toilet if the water goes out, right? I mean, these are simple things. These are questions that people often come up with, and not just come up with, they face these in reality when stuff hits the fan, right? Well, I'll give you one idea on toilets. Go out and buy a bunch of kitty litter, right? That's Army trick. Hunters do it too, called a hunter's toilet. Get kitty litter and trash bags and have a small trash can, or these portable hunter toilets or whatever. I mean, there's many things that you have to think about, because as Tommy mentioned, we're right at the beginning of this thing. We're not even close to the top.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same with it. It's the same with anything, isn't it? You look forward to the end, or you look forward to something too quickly, and it takes forever to get there. I think we just got to all reset our minds and just be like, we're in this now. And if for the people who can stock up and stay and they're financially okay, then please just do that. All right. You're not missing much outside. People back in the UK, I'm just like, well, it's still pretty cold in the UK, so why would you want to go outside anyway? You know what I mean? Yeah. So just to try and stay in. And I think we're lucky nowadays as well, because we've got all this entertainment, we've got all this technology that we can keep to occupy ourselves. So I think that, we've just got to try and stay inside as much as possible. This is going to be a long thing. 2020 is written off. And just brace for all the things that you planned. They're going to festivals and holidays, vacations. It's all cancelled. All right. So just get through it. Survival is key. And also as well, just people, obviously a lot of your viewers are from the US. Anyone from the US, Europe, look at what's happening in Asia. All right. Mike's in Thailand. I'm in Hong Kong. Okay. Look what's happening. Look what's happening in Taiwan, Vietnam. Look at that for the light at the end of the tunnel, because we've been dealing with it for months. Hong Kong since January. Okay. Thailand since January. We've been dealing with it for months. So if it gets better here eventually, it's probably going to be getting better here first than anywhere else, and then it's going to. That's what I think it's going to work like. So,
Tommy, let me say something really quickly. On the bottom of the page right there, that's Tommy's name, Tommy Walker, and that's his Facebook right there. So you might want to follow his Facebook. He's got a lot of very interesting content. I just wanted to say that so people would notice. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Mike.
That is all.
But yeah, again, I think people just need to follow Asia first. That's the advice I'm giving. if my family back in Europe, I'm saying just keep an eye on what's going on in Asia. If it gets better in Asia, it's going to get better there. That's how it looks like it's going to work. So, but you're right. I'm looking at some of the comments. Most people in the US, most people in the UK have to work. People have to go out and make money and survive. I understand, but there's definitely precautions that you have to take. Like in the UK, not many people are wearing masks. All right, definitely outside of London. But I think maybe, I don't know whether it is, I don't know, but are people embarrassed to wear the masks? Do they think it's a bit, I've never done this before, this is not our culture? Maybe that's what it is in parts of Europe and the States, but we've just got to forget that. Wear a mask. Wear something that protects your face, right? That's going to help you. So...
Yeah, and even a lot of the white people there in Hong Kong, we would see them out there. They're not wearing masks, even after a lot of Hong Kongers are masked up too. And I get a lot of message traffic from my Hong Konger friends, like, look, that they're out there. Westerners still not wearing masks often. That's why they had to close the bars. Even when there wasn't any big out, just Westerners out there drunk at, where's that? What's it called? Long Kwai Fong or whatever it is.
Lang Kwai Fong.
Yeah. LKF, right? Or whatever it's called. Yeah. And, out there at the bars all the time, just, getting lathered up and not wearing masks. I mean, that's a recipe for an explosive outbreak right there.
Yeah. I mean, the Hong Kong government closed all bars which has been extended now until at least the April 30th. You can get alcohol.
April 30th.
Yeah.
Brother, that'll be closed until next year at April 30th.
It's going to get extended again for sure, but that's what it is at the moment. But yeah, I mean, you can still buy alcohol restaurants are still open, but, the bars have been closed down to try and increase social distancing. But yeah, I mean, look, a lot of it seemed like a lot of expats in Hong Kong weren't wearing masks in comparison to the locals, but that has improved for sure. But initially, it did seem that way. Maybe that's a cultural thing, or I don't know. But it is what it is. And like I said, Hong Kong's down. Like some places are. I mean, we could talk about Singapore. It's recently been put on lockdown. They've just had a huge surge in cases. Singapore, actually, when the virus first came out, Singapore was praised for its reaction.
I've praised Singapore many times. But at the same time,
surges.
I've been to Singapore probably, 20 times maybe. I don't know. And so I was, even with their prophylactic moves, I was still curious how Singapore was able to manage, because they are densely populated as well.
Yeah.
I hope the best for Singapore. I love Singapore, but I'm concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're just touching on Singapore slightly. Singapore had made a very good start, but they've just recently went into lockdown because of the foreign workers and helpers. They all kind of live within dormitories, and some of them got it and it just exploded. So a lot of foreign workers have got it now, and that's why their cases have surged. So again, it shows you an example. Singapore were praised at the start. You praised them. I'm sure I have. But now Singapore is looking, and it's like it's over 4,000 or 5,000 cases, I believe now. And I think recently this week it had like 728 in one day. So that's the example of what can happen. You can have a good start, but it can change quickly. And even from I work with some companies in Singapore, and I've got Singaporean friends, and people have told me that Singaporeans, some were dismissive of wearing masks, and they were kind of saying, "Oh, people in Hong Kong wear masks, but we're not going to wear them." So there's there's been a bit of naivety there too. So again, just an example of how things can change. So far at the moment, like I said, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Vietnam have been the standout places to keep it. But again, it needs to continue that. You can't just open up the borders and everything again, and then people rush in, and then it's like oh well, we're on the second wave and we've got to do it all over again. So it just has to be, there needs to be some sort of continuity with it. Yeah.
Well, it's the new normal, Tommy, and we'll just adjust to it. A lot of people have been through a lot of bad things in the past, and they got through it, and we're going to do it too. And this is just a good thing is everybody in the world now is going to be a war veteran. You know what I mean? Everybody in the world is going to gain wisdom that normally you only get in a war. And everybody's going to have it. So we'll be able to talk with people like, now you know what it's like when stuff gets really serious, right? You know what I mean? It changes the way people will view the world. And I think it can be in a positive way, actually. I mean, this is an opportunity for a lot of people also to be the leaders that they are, whether it's leading your family or leading, some people in your community, maybe at work, to, show confidence, teach them this or that, how to prepare a little better, buy you some rice now, you know what I mean? And I want to say it again for about the 1,000th time since January. Stock up on food. Continue to do it. Rice, dry beans, whatever, and water security. These are vital. But what are your next moves, Tommy?
Well, again, I think like anyone who is in a situation where you're living in a country or a place that you're not from, people will start to consider, your own future. I'm sticking around in Hong Kong as long as I can for now, at least get the summer done, especially with the inevitable demonstrations that are going to happen, like I mentioned earlier in the video. Right. I want to cover them, and then we'll see. I think times like this is you got to look at, you start thinking about family and stuff, and that's what we all do, I think. And I lived away from England for about 8 years, so for me, from an honest point of view, I'm thinking, is it time, to go and help out and be there physically?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what I'm going to do. But first, I just can't abandon Thailand either. So I have people here I just can't leave behind. I'm not going to. So I have to make sure, I have to see how this bad boy's playing out here. And then when I feel that everything is, so that people can do without me, I'm punching out to America.
Yeah. It's just timing, I think. It's the same for both of us, and I'm sure there might be other people listening to this or watching this. It's just timing.
We have to help rebuild our countries. But I'm also very concerned about Hong Kong. That the communist Chinese are going to do what, a lot of us think that they're going to do, which is use this as an opportunity when the United States is the only one that can truly help Hong Kong. And right now, the United States is obviously inwardly focused for obvious reasons. It's no fault of Americans. A lot of Americans were getting behind Hong Kong, and I'm sure are still very, worried about Hong Kong. At the same time, when your own house is on fire, you got to do it. And China knows that, and I'm also concerned for Taiwan because they, during the invasion season, China could hit Taiwan, and there you go. Yeah. That's what it's like when you're dealing with Nazis, and as Hong Kongers call them, Chi-Nazis.
Yeah, well, we saw that sign quite a lot, didn't we, in the protest, Chi-Nazis or Chi-Nazis, however you want to pronounce it, in the protest last year. Yeah, I mean, look, like I mentioned earlier, which I know I didn't say it as clearly as you did, but Beijing and pro-establishment are trying to, clamp down on what's happened in the protests. And today was, I mean, we're speaking on a perfect day because today that's happened.
Tommy, can you put up your Facebook link another time?
Yeah, sure. So today, I'll just do it whilst I'm speaking. Today that happened. 15 pro-democracy figures were arrested. Now, this is no coincidence. This is happening at a time when people are less likely to revolt against it because of the worry of the virus. So they definitely are taking advantage of the vulnerable position Hong Kong is in at the moment, basically, because, like you said, the Hong Kong was calling for, endorsements and the help of the US last year, but right now the US has got enough on its plate at the moment. So Hong Kong is a little bit on its own at the moment in this sort of battle. So there's going to be plenty of twists and turns, I think, politically, and demonstrations and arrests, and that's just, it's just what we're dealing with,
Right. Well, Tommy, I'd like to have you on about 100 more times. And now that we've worked out all the glitches.
Thanks, man. Can people understand my accent? Can they understand my accent?
Americans can't understand Australian accents.
Well, I'm British, so it doesn't matter. I'm not saying an Australian accent.
I'm American, dude. Actually, I can understand the difference between British and Australian accents now very quickly. But when I was younger, now I can tell. Oh, that's South African. That's British. That's Aussie. You know what I mean? That's maybe a Kiwi or something. Kiwis got their own world going. But British would always be like, "How come you Americans can't tell our accents apart? It's not that difficult." And I'm like, well, can you tell a redneck accent from Florida versus the mountains in North Carolina, Mr. Smart Guy? You know what I mean? I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the more you travel or the more international friends you have, the more you pick up on it, right? I mean, you've traveled all your life, so you'll know how people sound. Someone's just said I'm a Geordie, which, if you know football teams in England, that's like an insult to me. But never mind, we won't get into that. We won't get into that because that's a different side of my life.
Here's a Michael Talcott saying Liverpudlian sounds like
Liverpudlian. Yeah, it's Liverpool. So Liverpool's northwest. I'm from the northeast, so it's the other side. It's like New York, LA, but not the same distance.
If you can put your Facebook up one more time, then we'll close. When I close off, your Facebook will be on the bottom.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna shut off with Tommy soon, and I'm gonna go back to studying. And Tommy, if you want to come on next week, if you're free anytime, now that we know how to do this so easy now, and I would really love to have you on regularly. Actually, there's Tommy's page. It's Tommy Walker, and if you web search Tommy's name, you'll see a lot of really important. Oh, I want to talk about one more thing. Yeah, Tommy, you might remember the Indonesian reporter. She got shot in the eye.
That's right. Yeah.
And Tommy hound dogged that thing. And can you say what happened and what happened with the police and how he was found? And
Yeah, I mean, basically, I interviewed VB Mega Inda as an Indonesian journalist.
Who got shot in the eye?
She was shot in her right eye on the 29th of September. That day, as you remember, Mike, everyone got hit. I think you got shot by bullets in the shoulder. That was the day I got shot twice. That was a crazy day, and a lot of journalists and correspondents were hurt that day. It was 2 days before China's national birthday, 1st of October. Anyway, VB's injury was by far the worst, and she was shot with a rubber bullet. And coincidentally, I was about 5 meters away from her when it happened. There's video footage, and I've went on record and spoke about that. So she was shot in the right eye and subsequently blinded. And I interviewed her for a British newspaper in December. And at that point, with her legal case, her legal team at the time, because I believe she's changed them, they were looking for the ID of the shooter so they could continue with the case. And I just made a post on my social media, not expecting too much of a reaction, just to basically outline what had happened. And it was purely for legal purposes. You know, I put a disclaimer there because it wasn't for the public to know. It was for me to pass on some information if I could help, or if anyone could help. So it was for the legal side of things. And obviously, a lot of Hong Kongers voluntarily did a lot of research to identify certain suspects of the potential shooter, and that kind of went on social media, and that was it. I'm nothing to do with the case. I'm just a journalist who interviewed her, who wanted to help in any way. As any journalist, if it happened to you, Mike, or anyone else I know, I would try to help, and I would like to think the same would happen with me. So it was just to help her out, really. And the response from Hong Kongers was enormous. And they identified the police's names, potentially the suspects' names, because there was a few. And I believe VB and her new legal team got wind of that. So, I mean, look, again, it was for legal purposes. I'm not on that case by any means, but I was just trying to help a fellow journalist out, just to try and get some sort of, what's the word, to get sort of what was right. You know, she was assaulted and her life has been affected, so she needs to be able to have a chance to, set things right, really, and find out who it was. So that was it.
I'm surprised the Hong Kong police haven't kicked you out, because you have, for instance, you bird dogged that one down and got it. I think, which is a great help to her. VB,
but it's justice. It's justice, right? I mean, it's the same as anything. If we had any friends in any profession, whether it's journalists or even if it was the other side of the law, even if it was a police, and they were really, and it was uncalled for, if you knew someone, you would want them to have a crack or a chance of justice. I think that's only fair for anyone. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I haven't, many people have spoken to VB, I assume, and many people know about that case. I was just.
But you're the one that bird dogged it down, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess it definitely shone a little light on it. But yeah, I mean, I still don't know who the shooter is or anything like that. It's nothing to do with me. It's just to help her out, really. I kind of felt connected a little bit with it because I was near her, and I got shot by bullets the same day, 2 or 3 hours later. So, and we've seen lots of journalists and reporters, local and foreign, been attacked or been hurt during the protests. Now, that's part and parcel of it. I understand that if you're on the front line, things like that can happen. I get that. But, there needs to be some justice if it's something as, severe as what happened to VB. So, just trying to look for justice, really. That's it, really. I mean, I haven't been spoken to anyone about it since, and I hope not, because it's nothing to do with me anymore. So.
All right, brother. I want to get you back on really soon, and I don't mean like 2 weeks. I mean, next week or so, if you're available for it.
Yeah, cool. No worries. Thanks for that. I appreciate it, speaking to you, and I'm glad your followers and viewers can understand my accent. So I'll come on again for sure.
I want to put your link on the bottom of my page one more time, and we're going to close out for now. I promise. And we've been on for a little over an hour, but I think that you have been there for so long, you've seen so much. Your opinions are now valuable. Not just the facts that you report, but now your opinions have become valuable. Like your opinions on where you think this will go, and those sorts of things. But if you can put your link up one more time, and I'm going to pin it to the bottom.
Sure. Thanks, man.
And there we go. That's Tommy Walker, and we're gonna sign off. Do you have anything else to say, Tommy?
No, it's good. Nice to speak to you, mate, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon.
Right, man. Have a good night, and talk with you soon. If I can turn this thing off somehow, there we go. Finish.
Yeah.
End broadcast. Mike out.